wanted to add a quick intro to the intro. I'm using old tech because my regular camera's not working. I'll mention that again in the intro. But because of this, I totally forgot about this. It's been years since I've used this camera, but it times out after like 10 minutes of filming. So I actually recorded this whole video for you, and it only recorded half of the video for it. Fortunately, I have all of the audio. So what I'm going to do here is post the first 10 minutes of this conversation, unfortunately. I'm not going to re-record it because I felt there was too much off-the-cuff action in there for me to try to capture it again. Might be a little bit tedious. So I'll show the first part of it, and then I'll provide the link if you want to listen to the rest of the conversation if it interests you at all. You can just check out the podcast version, because for every one of these videos that I post, I also post the audio version. You can get it on Apple, like podcasts, whatever those are. I use Spotify personally, so you can also find those links as well to access the rest of it. And then if you want to add any 2 cents, of which I would really appreciate on the particular topic, please feel free to comment under this video. Let's get started. Hey, welcome to this episode of Musings. I have to apologize somewhat because I don't have a working camera. I do actually have a working camera. I'm using it right now, but I don't remember how to use it. It's my old camera. It's I can't see the screen. I don't know if it's in focus. So if this video is really out of focus or like I don't know, it's like way off to the side, I can't tell. I'm just working with what I have, and hopefully I can get the main one fixed soon. What I wanted to talk about today was philosophy. And specifically, I wanted to talk about how I've made some decisions recently. So I've been planning for the upcoming fall session because I'm going to be selecting my fall classes soon. And I'm coming up on the end of my fourth full semester of university, which makes me about at the halfway mark of my full class schedule. And where I'm expected to take 40 classes, typical university load I've done as of this point, it'll be 19. So I'm really close to the midway point. Now, the things that I've been thinking about in this time. When I started last year, January of 2022 was my first month of going to university. I had no idea what I was doing. So basically I took a lot of foundational classes so that I could hopefully feel my way into it. At that point, I didn't know. Maybe I wanted to do an English degree. Maybe I wanted to do a philosophy degree. What about psychology? So I kind of explored them all and set a foundation in all of those so I could decide, okay, well, if I really like philosophy, then now I'll be able to go and take a 200 level philosophy class next time. Or if I really like my English class, I can go to a harder English class next time. So that was a really informational first semester. I realized that I actually don't like taking English classes. Maybe it was just the one I took, but just not my style. I like reading, but not that kind of reading. So that was a good thing to rule out. I did, however, find that I really liked both psychology and philosophy. So what I did in the next semester is a whole bunch of psychology classes, actually enough that I pretty much ended up with a psychology minor by then. And it was at that point where I was like, okay, psychology is really interesting. It's pretty cool. I learned a lot of neat things. I find it fun to read about. But there was an apparent limit in what I felt I was able to get from it. In terms of, but I didn't even really know it. So this is still last year. I still wasn't really sure what I was looking for. I just had the sense that, okay, this is interesting, it's fun, but I'm not gonna get a psychology degree. At most, I would get like a double major involving psychology, but it wouldn't be like my main pursuit. It's just sort of like a fun thing. And also, again, there was a limitation. I wasn't sure where it was limited, but somehow it felt limited. It wasn't giving me some kind of it's not that any of these fields give you answers, but there's something I was seeking that was being unfulfilled in psychology. So I turned to history, and I wanted to explore that. Political science was another option, but I ended up kiboshing that before even beginning it. I took a couple history classes, and I thought, again, history would be an admirable major. I thought, if I have a major in history, that's pretty cool. I thought that it would be cooler to introduce myself as a historian as opposed to a philosopher, which I've mentioned before. It just sounds really pretentious. So I thought, there's that. That's not a real reason to do it or not do it, but I thought that it just sounded cool. And also, I'm really into history. I've taken music history exams, and I've loved the process of both teaching music history and studying for it. So there was some aspect of familiarity. Like, I know I like this and I know how to work with it. I'm maybe not the best at it, but I understand the terrain. But once I took a couple history classes, it became apparent to me that I just wasn't as engaged as I was with some of my other classes. For example, I was way more engaged in the psychology classes. So it seemed sort of, well, why would I get a major in this? Or like a minor even, if I just find it hard to stay focused in the lectures. I'm not that interested. I mean, I like reading about history for fun, but maybe it was one of those things not to study in school. I just, you can't force interest. If you're not interested in something, then why would you pursue it, right? So I came up to that, and all of a sudden, now I'm sitting with 4 semesters behind me and I'm trying to decide, okay, well, I've gotten most of the core requirements out of the way. So the next half of the credits that I'm going to take are pretty much to do with whatever I decide to major in, and then some electives. So what I was thinking was like, well, let's be efficient. Why not get 2 majors? In fact, it's very easy to get 2 majors at my university. I could get just an extra 10 classes would yield me with 2 pretty much distinct majors, and I thought that's like a good deal. It's like the supersize option, I suppose, the value pack. And then after a little bit of thought, that sounded like a really good idea for a while. Why not do a double, like 2 majors, not just a double major, but 2 majors of philosophy and psychology, or 2 majors of philosophy and history. Philosophy being the common theme here, because I felt like, yeah, I feel pretty strongly about this one. I'll get to that in a minute. And then I sort of realized recently now that was a bad idea. Maybe for someone else it would be a good idea, someone who had a clearer sense of what they want to go into in grad school, for example. I know someone who's doing a philosophy and psychology honors degree, and they're going to use their knowledge of both to their benefit when they go to grad school. But from my perspective, if I am thinking about doing grad school, and I would like to explore that in the future, should I get to that point, I think that it would actually be a downside, not an upside, to have 2 majors. So, for example, if I wanted to pursue philosophy in grad school, there seems to be a really useful benefit of like the more philosophy knowledge going into that point, the better. So all of a sudden I was thinking about this, it would be way more attractive to me as a student, but probably also prospectively attractive to someone who's letting me into grad school, hopefully, that I have this extensive philosophical training. Beyond even what the major requires. I think the major requires something like 13 philosophy classes or something like that. What if I did like most of my electives as philosophy? And then all of a sudden I'm covering the major and I'm not distracting myself with something that's not really going to be that relevant to what I might do in grad school. Philosophy is a unique field in that, I don't know if all fields are like this, but there seems to be a big importance on tracing through lines of thought across many different thinkers over many, many years. This separates it from something like, say, science, like chemistry or something like that. With chemistry, you don't need to know the entire history of all the different chemists and the origin of chemistry. I mean, you're going to study that here and there anyway, but that aspect of it isn't actually fundamental to being able to practice chemistry. In order to practice chemistry, you need to have a sense of what's working now, what the general climate is, what the current knowledge is. There's a very current focus aspect with science, what's cutting edge, for example, and that's true of other hard sciences as well. And it's not something that's remotely true at all with philosophy. In fact, with philosophy, if you had only read or kept up with modern philosophy, you would be missing out on like a really important part of the discipline. Somehow, if you want to practice philosophy, you need to continue that through line in some way. You need to build on arguments that are already existing. And it's just totally different, again, than the hard sciences. Maybe even some of the other fields like maybe some of the social sciences too, but I wouldn't want to extend my metaphor too long because I'm not sure how that would carry out. But thinking about this importance of the through line and understanding thoughts, if I want to, for example, join a conversation on the philosophy of religion, then I can't just jump in and blurt out my opinion when I have no understanding of what people have been saying prior to this point. In order to actually continue a discussion on religion in philosophy, you would need to, okay, who were the main thinkers on religion? philosophically speaking, and what were the arguments made for, against, whatever. Does God exist? Does God not exist? Here are the arguments. Okay, now that I have all this this pool of information, now I can contribute my 2 cents. So this made me realize that it's probably way more valuable to take more philosophy classes, to create more hooks in which to hang my knowledge on. And that would benefit me immensely, not only just as someone who's curious about building a knowledge base in a new field, but also it's just a thing that seems to be required of the field itself, and probably would be useful for grad school. So that's the way I'm thinking about it. And once that clicked, everything sort of fell into place. Okay, I'm really going to go hard on philosophy. And in fact, I was just recently accepted into the honors program. So I'm going to be getting a honors degree, ideally. That's the goal. I shouldn't say it as if it's a done deal. I still have 2 years of difficult readings, I suppose, to get through to get to that point. But that is the plan. And this brings me to the second part of what I wanted to talk about today, which is why philosophy. And I think about this question a lot because I think about my mom asking me, or like just a family member, someone asking, like, why would you study? What is philosophy? I have a family of very practical people. My family consists of scientists or people in the sciences, as well as accountants, so people who are heavy in the maths, and also people who do like farming, that kind of thing. So these are practical, in the earth people who also are very smart, and I want to make sure, like, my family members are brilliant. I think they're really cool people. They're very clever, successful in their chosen fields, but it's a different type of thinking. So it's hard, and it has been hard for me to articulate, like, why philosophy? It's cool. I like reading hard books. Sort of like my really lame answer. Having given it a little bit more thought recently, especially deciding to double down on it in the form of an honors major, there are a few different things, and I think a lot of them ultimately are a little bit on the emotional side. I think when we're choosing what we're doing, for some of us, perhaps there's function. Like, I'm going to study accounting because accounting will get me a good job. That's totally valid. But I also think that there's probably some pull. Whichever, hopefully, I hope you're not doing something that you hate, but there's a pull to a thing that, like, oh, I find this interesting, or I find there's something true here. Maybe there's a connection of understanding in the way that you understand the world. So someone who's really science oriented might find that in studying, like, say, physics or something like that, there's this nice unity between the way that they already understand the world and how this particular science is explaining the world. There's sort of like a nice synergy there, almost like your instinct. And that's where my camera decided to kick the bucket. So if you want to listen to the rest of this conversation, do check out the podcast version of it linked below. And I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully it'll be a full one.